like. Thank you. Well, here you go. In 2004, I became aware of the possibility that the 25-meter Dwingelow radio telescope could become available for radio amateurs and EME. Back in 1956, it was the first radio telescope of this size in the world, and it marked the start of professional radio astronomy. It was a thrill to imagine that we, radio amateurs, were going to use this magnificent historical instrument for EME. Looking back through the things that happened since then, I must say this was a life-changing event. The story about the idea of PA0 Radio Yankee Lima and of our first years reviving the telescope was told in 2008 and the EME conference in Florence, and I showed many pictures of the great instrument. Now, 4 years later, I'm very happy to tell you that it's 100% sure the dish will be saved. At this very moment, the big restoration is on its way. The Dwingelow dish has become a national monument, and that opened the way to all kinds of funding. The restoration will cost more than €1 million, and it's done by professionals. In the proceedings and on the DVD, you can find information about all these highlights. Because I want to show you a lot of pictures of the restoration, I only will say a few words about the yellow marked highlights on this list. Of course, I will tell something about the EME results we had those 4 years. To demonstrate the strong echoes we have at PI9CAM, I will play my favorite moon song. And in the next presentation, Daniela will tell you all about visual moonbounds. But to already get an idea, I will show a short movie where we see and hear a part of an EME SSTV QSO. And Klingon Opera was a crazy art project. I will show you a 5-minute movie of the artists made of their visit to the dish. And the rest of the time, I will need to show you many pictures of the big ongoing restoration. We activated PI9CAM 39 times in the past 4 years. I thought it was 20, but my wife said, no, you much more. And she was right. Most QSOs were on 23 centimeters, 70 centimeters, and 2 meters. 13, 9, and 6 were only activated during the ARRL weekend in 2009, so that explains the lower QSO count on those bands. In total, we had 1,534 QSOs. The breakdown in modes give these results. Most QSOs in CW and JT, but still 145 QSOs in SSB, 7 in SSTV, 1 in FM, and 2 in Olivia. Well, here comes the first movie of my favorite moon song. See if I can find... Oh, that's too fast. See if I can find my cursor. Ah, there it is. That's the moon. That's me. That's the moon. Thank you. I see you adults love it, but also children are very fond of this. Now, how we make SSTV QSO. Short. Komt hij weer?
Ja, die is allemaal bij.
Nee. Hij pakt hem.
Ja.
Hij is eigenlijk nog wat te laag, maar nu niet aan zitten. Ja.
De partij dat we een beamer kregen, hè?
Een beamer, om dit zo... Ja, maar we kunnen niet met z'n allen achter, hè? Dat is het probleem.
Heeft iedereen koffie?
Nee,
Ik wel. Wie moet er nog koffie dan?
Ik.
Wil je er wat in hebben?
Komt zo. Hou gewoon vol. En zet hem zo meteen naar 40 hertz nog lager. Dan komen we beter uit. Okay, that's how it's done. But about SSTV, Daniela will tell you all. And this was that crazy art project for the Klingon opera. It speaks for itself.
We're going to Dwingelo. We're going to send the first ever message to Kronos. We're going to be sending them a message to invite them to come to the premiere of our opera. It's the first cultural invitation between us, Terrence, and the Klingon. So that's quite a sort of fragile thing. Luckily, we've been working with Mark Okren. He's translated quite a simple but we think effective message, which we're going to be sending up to Kronos today or this evening. We're going to be using a decommissioned telescope from the 50s, which is still in good working order. And the people we're working with now are an organization called Cameras, basically a group of enthusiasts who keep this thing running. Let's get these guys set up. Let's get it sending.
Het is voor ons heel erg uniek om de telescoop op deze manier te gebruiken. Om het verhaal van de Klingon, om daarin te stappen en te zeggen van wij geloven dat die planeet er is en wij willen die boodschap zenden. Dat is uniek. Dat is nooit eerder gebeurd met deze telescoop en dat is echt een primeur.
14 uur, 15 minuten, 7 seconden. Track. Dan gaat hij nu uitrekenen waar hij heen moet. Hij moet bijna een halve slag maken en hij staat iets hoger. En dan zul je zo meteen de motoren horen starten.
De schotel is inmiddels gericht op de ster Arcturus, waar de homeworld Kronos van de Klingons is. Wij gaan hier zo meteen een bestand afspelen, een geluidsbestand. Dat sturen we door middel van een kabeltje naar deze zender. Het signaal uit die zender wordt nog versterkt door een aantal eindtrappen, zoals dat heet, waar mooie zwiepende meters te zien zijn. En op het moment dat die computer gestart wordt en ik op de zendknop druk, gaat het signaal richting Arcturus voor een reis van 36 jaar. Oké, we zijn er klaar voor. Gaat-ie. 3, 2, 1, zenden.
Kotnos Klingantu, Kelish Puklod, Pukbet Pujer.
Terakvo Share, Mark Okrenjich, De Hot Vilav.
Mai Retnak, Lumuskru, Ratrampu. Oef Retnak O. Juk Magdak, Mai Retnak Wattis, Wikhoibo Ohu.
Horlumuch, Hochtuj, Bitresh Lumboch Watjaj, Kelistis, Chorvat, Loshmach, Jav Kastachvis.
Retnak Dakvo, Kinvam Vilav. Wanneer van toen du lerlaf mechtinga shuwe, du bonger e lutur teratrampu.
Kelis Wikhovmoch Tachvis, Chetlejwinech. Kat Wijetmech, Bashuv. Kapla.
Ja, wat ik al zei. Live long and prosper.
Tot ziens.
Kapla.
Yeah, I think we did a good job. We did everything that we could do to get the message there. And I hope that they'll be there.
And unfortunately, they did not show up. But, but on the internet, there are some movies of people dressed up as Klingons promising that they will come. Well, now I'm stepping through the weeks. And in week 22, this is the big restoration. In week 22, we did remove the focal box, we cleared the shack, and we situated the temporary pedestal. It started in week 22, and we already removed the inner box with all the antennas. And that can be done by using the fixed maintenance elevator. Removing the focus box itself is a different story. The 4 legs need to be removed while the box is kept in place by a big crane. This is the job for professionals. The guys in the skylift are removing the nuts and bolts. At least they try to do that. The first leg is disconnected from the focus box and from the dish. And here it is safely going down. Here we see the visual inspection. 1 down, 3 to go. Leg number 2, a few moments before touchdown. 2 down, 2 to go. Leg number 3 coming down. Struggling with the last one. And at last, flying free. Down on the ground, you only see how big it is. Nearly as high as the fence. Plenty of room for our preamps. And this was the cause of the struggle. Brute force was necessary to get those loose. Now, a view of our shack completely dismantled. Very empty. The only thing that's left is our call sign and locator. Exactly the same 4 concrete blocks as on which the telescope was built are being used for the temporary pedestal. They only had to clear the terrain of plants and bushes. The reuse of the old foundation gives the restoration an extra historic touch. One of those 4 blocks. And this is the pedestal, just next to the telescope, on the 4 concrete blocks. On this construction, the dish will be for about 5 months to be restored completely. Another view of this temporary pedestal. The dish without the focus box and without the 4 legs, ready to make the short ride down to its temporary pedestal. Only a short distance, but short isn't always easy. In week 23, we had the lifting of the dish. On June 5, at 1400 local time, the dish was supposed to be lifted from its pedestal for the first time since 1956. My wife and I arrived around 12:30 to experience some of the preparation. When we arrived, the 500-ton crane was already fully rigged and apparently ready to lift the dish. So we thought it would become a short show of something like 15 minutes. How wrong we were. The weather was fine, hardly any wind, nice temperature. People were gathering to watch the show. A busy touristical bicycle path is very close to the dish, so many tourists stopped to witness the historical event. National TV, national radio, national newspapers, and many local media were present to tell the story to the world. The big crane was ready to pull. It's really a strong one. Lifting chains were ready. And about 1 hour before liftoff, but tourists already gathering. A nice view from a distance. A few moments before liftoff, we thought. Here, a cameraman and a reporter from Dutch national TV going up for an interview with a nice perspective. Going up. Ready for some nice shots. And this is what they saw. A nice sky view from the temporary pedestal. And this is where the nuts and bolts will go. And, too fast. This is better. This is a view, direction southeast over the natural reserve area. Good takeoff. This is the Astron building from above. A new wing is being added to the building. It took very long to get a building permit because it's so close to the natural reserve area. And in this place, more than 200 scientists from all over the world are working on radio astronomy. People are getting curious, waiting for things to come. A more distant view. And action at last. Workers going up to unscrew the last few nuts and bolts. More and more people are watching. Pulling has started. The 500 tons crane is rigged to lift 40 tons. The contractor estimated the weight of the dish at 30 tons maximum. So we have 10 tons margin. That should be enough. The crane is roaring. The workers are hammering, but no movement yet. Short movie. They're waiting and discussing why it does take so long. The crane is pulling 40 tons now. More is not possible in this configuration. Workers are checking the nuts and the bolts. Yes, they all are loose. There even is some movement, but the dish does not go up. Apparently, the dish weighs more than 40 tons. Pulling is stopped. Extra counterweights are ordered. An extra crane is ordered for lifting the counterweights, and the whole operation is postponed by about 5 hours. Radio and TV reporters bring the news, and it seems we have a real cliffhanger. A few hours later, a truck with the extra counterweights rushes towards the waiting crane. And the big crane had to be fully down to be rigged for pulling 60 tons maximum. The extra crane for the lifting of the counterweights is behind the big crane. Extra counterweights are being added. Watch your fingers and your toes. It's big. Look at those cables. And this is only the hook. Yes, it's really big. This is an extra part that's needed to reinforce the crane. Everything is big on this crane. And this is the guy who runs the show. Everybody was jealous. The reinforcement is slowly getting shape. Ready to go up and out. Here it's slowly going up and up and up. Now moving out and out and out. The lifting boom is being prepared. Here it's going up. It's mounted to the dish. Workers in skylifts mounting the lifting chains. 5 hours have passed. It's 8 o'clock in the evening. Radio and TV guys still present. Time for the second try. The old lady does not give way. A lot of hammering is needed to make her free. Yes, the dish has moved up a few centimeters. You see, between the axle and the foundation. So we're loose. And then, at last, after all this waiting, the dish is free of its pedestal for the first time since 1956. And for a few seconds, a flying saucer can be spotted in Dwingelo. The second try took about 1 hour. Finally, the dish gave way after 43 tons of pulling force, and when it was free flying in the air, the dish weighed 37.5 tons. And now I show you a time-lapse movie, if I can find my cursor. Yes.
You forgot the 50 cans of WD-40.
Probably. Well, this is a no-sound movie. It's 1 frame per second, and this is the hour they worked from 8 in the evening until 9 in the evening. And then you see some slow movements now and then, and you see a rather big shock, but of course it's time-lapse, so you could hardly see those movements. Oh, I will remove the cursor. And then at last it's coming down. I was the only one with a working camera at that moment because all those small handy cams had used up their batteries. And I had mine rigged up with a 6-volt extra battery. I made 9 hours of video that day. There, you see some movement? So the guys from the local TV, yes, you see movement? The guys of the local TV used this very movie because they could not have it from their cells because it was empty. And you see the people rushing up and down. Again, some movement. There we go. Yes, up, little bit. They even had to remove a bit of the fence structure that was in the way, so they flexed it away. There we go. And there she goes up. Thud. And now it's down. The last few meters in some pictures, nice and easy. And the skylift guys making sure the dish finds its right place on the temporary pedestal. Only a few centimeters now. Nearly there. And now it's in position. And now it's safely bolted down. Safe and secure. And we have an empty pedestal. Mission accomplished. Week 24, building the scaffolds. To be able to access every inch of the dish, a huge building of scaffolding has to be constructed. A big dish is a big job in all aspects. Here the scaffolding reached the top. The structures on the ground are parts of the roof. It's a little bit dark, but you will see it better next pictures. You see they're pretty high already. Higher and higher. And now we're in week 25, building the roof and removing the mesh. Here you see the roof is constructed on the ground and then lifted to the top. First, these are mounted. Later, the other roof plates will be fitted in. It's really a huge building. And this way it's closed. The pedestal is in scaffolds now too. A view under the roof. A more distant view, the way the tourists will see it during the next months. These constructions, called mushrooms, as we say, carry all the mesh panels. The conditions of some of those mushrooms is very bad, as you can see. If we waited another year, very likely some of those mushrooms would have failed. You see the first mesh panels are being removed. And all mesh panels are labeled and stored in a vertical position in 3 containers. In week 26, we are measuring the mesh positions and removing the mesh mountings and removing the elevation gearboxes. High above the dish, a laser measurement device was set up. And by putting this laser reflector on every mushroom position, the coordinates of every mushroom are stored into the memory of the machine. And this will be a great help when the mushrooms are adjusted. The last few mesh panels to be taken out. The frame of the dish with no mesh anymore. Some heavily corroded details. Yes, the restoration was necessary. Another bad spot. One of the 3 containers filled with mesh panels. Removing the mushrooms. There it goes. And another one. And this one is so bad you can nearly remove it by pushing it. In the meantime, the scaffolding at the pedestal is nearly at its highest point. The heavily corroded dish fixing point. Now you understand why it was so difficult to get it loose. The 2 elevation gearboxes also need some maintenance, and because they are a bit in the way for the blasting, they have to come down. Preparations for lifting the first gearbox are being made. Carefully going up. And there it goes. Flying high, going down, and safely down. Gearbox number 2 coming down. And here they're both down. Week 27, building the tent and replacing some bad bolts. White plastic, you see it at the back, acts as a wall to keep all the dust in. The blasting will cause a lot of dust. View inside. And when bad bolts are found, they are replaced. Week 28, the blasting starts. Huge compressors, pressurized air control, air treatment installation. And because of the blasting, the tent is now firmly closed to keep all the dust in. It's a tough job to close every hole. Now we are inside the tent and a few seconds before the blasting starts. And as soon as the blasting starts, there is dust everywhere. It's very, very dusty. And when the dust has settled, you can see what has come off. 56 years of coating history. Week 29, the first blasting results and inspecting the mesh. Blasting is a messy and noisy business, but look at the results. Some parts look like new. But on other parts, you can clearly see how deep the corrosion has gone. There, in the middle. And that's really deep on some other places. But some parts look great. Other parts definitely need to be repaired. And this is an example of a nice, new mushroom construction. They all were made new. 154. In the meantime, several cameras volunteers started to work on the stainless steel mesh panels. Every panel is inspected and small repairs are done. Panels that needed big repairs are put aside. There are 350 panels, so this will take a while. In week 13, more blasting results and mesh cleaning. Great blasting results of the counterweight section of the dish. Here we are admiring the results. The big elevation cogwheel also looking very good. And a distant view as the cycling tourists see it. And a bit closer. And week 30 was a week with very nice weather. So an excellent week to clean the mesh with high pressure water. Playing with water is always fun. And everyone gets a go. Brushing is also a very effective technique. And here we see the clean team. Of course, they need a break every now and then. Week 31, new coating. The pedestal is completely blasted clean and the first layers of coating are already applied. The top part of the pedestal, beautifully cleaned, and another part of the cleaned top part of the pedestal. One of the fixing points for the dish as good as new, cleaned, repaired and coated. Counterweight section of the dish also with the first layer of coating. Elevation cogwheel with the first layer of coating. The greasy part is protected. And a detail of the construction near the elevation axle. Another beautiful detail. The frame of the dish fully repaired and with a first layer of coating. And this, now here it ends abruptly because this is the situation as it was about 1.5 weeks ago. And so they are a bit further now. The dish will go up in week 44, that's somewhere October, November, and then we will have about half a year to rig the dish fully again with the cables, the coax, the antennas and so on, but it will be winter, so we hope we will be active again in April 2013, and then we hope for a bright future for the restored dish. Thank you.
Jan, thank you very much for a nice presentation. I think